Good afternoon. You're with Midday Live. My name is Wendy Lai. The headlines for this afternoon. Accra Regional Police Commander Patrick Timbila asked the public to continue to have faith in the police service. In sport, we will look back on the year of a few positives for the Black Stars. And on the international front, rebels in Northern Central African Republic seize another key regional capital, their fourth in the past 2.5 weeks, as negotiations with government struggle to get off the ground. While I bring you the stories, you can also get interactive with me on Facebook and Twitter. It's News on TV for your short code 1734. I've got the details shortly. I start with our first headline story. In the Accra Regional Police Commander Patrick Timbila has assured the public to remain confident in the police service. He told TV3 adequate personnel had been deployed to protect life and property during the Yuletide.
The Accra Regional Police Commander Patrick Timbila said the police service required maximum public support to deliver.
The police administration, looking at this mandate, always put up contingency plans to ensure that all major activities and all life, public life, what have you, becomes normal without any hindrance. And as you all know, 2012 started quite nicely. There were a lot of hitches, like armed robbery and other things, but because of our contingency plans or the effective plan that we put in place, we've been able to manage crime up to this stage.
The Deputy Accra Regional Commander, DCOP Christian Tete-Yohanu, insisted on public responsiveness and prompt reporting of crime.
This is a time whereby the ordinary pickpocketing will be at its highest peak. So we advise people that when you are going to do shopping, make sure that you don't take a huge sum of money along. People who also want to go to bank and cash huge sums of money to pay their workers. If you want assistance, quickly fall on the police, wherever you are, so that the police can escort you to the bank and also escort you to your business centers.
He called on Ghanaians to help maintain peace.
Now to the just ended elections, and poster and editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper, Ben F. Sin, says introduction of the biometric register has enhanced Ghana's electoral process and avoided issues of multiple voting. He, however, urged the Electoral Commission to learn from mistakes encountered during the voting process and correct them before the next district level elections. He spoke to my colleague Willen Walker on 7GMT.
Now we move on to the subject of biometric registration. Late in March, the Commission had started, and April became the period when it all came to some level of ending or congruence, and it was done in phases. Was it adequately, and the anticipation that preceded it about when it will start and the concerns raised by the parties through IPAC?
I believe that, given the fact that that was the first time we undertaking such an exercise, given the fact that it had to be done at 26,000 polling stations, the time frame, I would give the podcast stakeholders maybe 8/10. Because
being right, spot on.
Spot on.
Cautioning the EC.
Cautioning the EC. And the EC to 8/10. You see, without a biometric, as we are now speaking now, I think that the total number of registered voters on the roll as we went to was about 14.3 million. Your biometric register would have had 16.2 or 16.15 million. So in effect, you're talking about 1.5 million ghost voters not waking up. And 1.5 million is a lot to change. Now, the biometric rollout effectively weeded out multiple voting. It made it impossible. So it brought a lot of sanity into the system. 26,000 polling stations, there were backups. But if you have out of 26,000 polling stations and there are problems and they had to continue voting in 4,700, I think that it's not a bad idea. You know, I think that it was a good ratio that voting continued in these instances. These are lessons, but you look at the advantages of the biometric and the disadvantages, the potential that the absence of biometric would have brought forward. I think that we should be proud of ourselves that we introduced the biometric. I think into the future, the EC must be able to, given the report that it will come from the field, they must be able to pinpoint. You see, in saying that a machine is not working, you must, this year's election had a few problems. There were heavy rainfalls a night or two before voting. So they must be able to map. The EC must, luckily we'll have a district level election before the next election in 2016, hopefully in 2014. So that must be used to right the wrongs. Storage, lack of good storage facilities, some of the biometric machines, the machines were full of water. This is what they didn't anticipate, that look, if it rains and there are problems, you need to start changing them before even voting started. That is why voting delayed in certain places, because they were hoping that the problems will come about after some hours of usage. So one, storage of facilities. Storage facilities must be improved, because you never know, you can't determine when rain will fall or not. Two, you must be able to find out why the machine stored. Is it heat? The machines who stored, were those in the rooms or open airspace? So you know what triggers of the problems. They use the district level elections to perfect these acts. And I think that it will work to our benefit. They're expensive, but there's no cheap money in ensuring a sane country.
In May, June, July, especially in June, July, and then to towards the middle of August, the subjects of the health of the former president gained a lot more media prominence, and they were dismissed.
You see, I think that if you want to have the culture of the developed countries, you should either go all out or respect the privacy of persons, whether they are presidents or not. In the US, in Britain, the US, for example, you get a cold, it is news. He goes for checkup, it is news. His health status. If as a country we think that the health status of our presidents, of our MPs should be public knowledge, we should take a decision that all those, for example, who will be confirmed as presidential candidates for the elections, their health status should be published.
Good afternoon. You're still watching Midday Live. The National Youth Employment Program, NYEP, was mid-2012 changed to the Ghana Youth Employment Development Agency. The Ghana Youth Employment Development Agency has been able to provide sustainable jobs to many Ghanaian youth under its exit plan. The program, prior to its rebranding, offered temporal employment to Ghanaian youth. The Deputy National Coordinator of the Ghana Youth Employment Development Agency, Mutala Mohammed, is here with me in the studio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And thanks for your time.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Now,
I know, belated Merry Christmas.
Actually, I wish you a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you
Merry
too.
Christmas.
Now, with the new agency that you have on board now you're an agency, how many modules do you have now?
Well, if you could permit me, let me just briefly talk about something before I come to the models that we have. It's important for people to understand that the NYEP was created not to provide permanent job opportunities for young people. It was just an intervention that was as a result of a research conducted by the National Security under the SYLMPP administration. And the reports were damning that something needed to be done at that time. They needed to come up with something because of the huge youth unemployment Probably failure to do that as a nation would have had our own West African Spring, as we witnessed in the Arab Spring. So it was not a permanent job creation. So some models were created. Now with the coming of this administration and this management, we thought there was a need for us to be moving towards making the jobs that were created permanent. And that occasioned, even with this GIDA, the Ghana Youth Employment and Entrepreneur Development Agency, is more or less an authority now, which would focus on creating permanent jobs for young people. We inherited about 7 models. We now have about 31 models. About 80 to 90% of the models that we have now focus on creating permanent jobs, that is skill training and capacity building. Now, if you give someone training and then you don't give the person the needed material or resources to start up his or her own, I think that it will be better you don't even give the person the training. If you look at the old administration, the old program, that is the NYEP, and the models that we inherited, they were just these paid jobs: youth in nursing, youth in teaching, youth in IT, and then paid internship. These were models that the young person is doing the work. At the end of the month, he or she goes to the bank to take money. And you witnessed the challenges that we encountered with regards to non-payment of allowances or delay in the payment of allowances. We are now focusing on capacity building. We are focusing on giving the young person the training.
If you're focusing on capacity building, which specific areas are you looking at? Because if under the NYEP you did have nursing, but there were certain specifics that you did look at. If you're looking at capacity building and skills training, there's somebody out there who's watching Midday this afternoon. The person might want to know, what specific areas are we looking at?
Well, if you look at the NYEP, it is not National Youth Employment or National Educated Youth Employment Program. It is National Youth Employment Program. Majority of young people in this country, unfortunately, do not have formal education. But hitherto, people thought that the NYEP was really limited to people who have some formal education, either GSS or SSSCE. The focus now is looking at young people in totality. We have youth in Gollywood, training young people who have some talents in film production or acting. And I think that it's a section of our population who have such capabilities must be tapped. We have virtually decentralized the program. We are looking at existing vocations in each region and in each district and tapping into that. If you take bamboo processing, we don't have a single bamboo tree in the 3 northern regions. So you can't have a model like that in the 3 northern regions. You have it in the coastal belt, you have it in Volta region and some parts of Greater Accra. If you take youth in smoke weaving, smokes generally are weaved in the 3 northern regions. We have a model that we have youth in fish rearing, aquaculture. We have many graduates who are engaged in that in Volta region.
So it means that every region comes with different skills.
Existing youth in this kente weaving. We are focusing in areas where you have this kente, and that is where you tap the potentials of young people. Surprisingly, there are several young people who have HND and degrees who are engaged inside, and they are doing pretty well. I think that if you look at the kind of models that we have created with this GIDA, we are looking at models that will create a permanent job. Like I said, the NYP was not to create permanent job for young people. The objective was to create temporal jobs. Someone wrote SSSCE, failed, maybe passed in all the subjects and failed in maths or science or English. The person cannot move an inch. The NYP was meant to create that opportunity so that such a person can be getting something and at the same time rewriting some of the papers. Now, if you look at youth insecurity, we inherited only the community protection assistance. Without apology, they call them KUFOR police or Zoom police. We have created 2 additional models under the security: youth in fire service and youth in prisons. What we are doing is that the Ghana Police Service told us that they were prepared to exit those who were engaged under the previous administration into the mainstream policing, but they gave some conditions. That such a person must have passes at least in English and maths. When we checked, almost all of them didn't meet the requirements. They then said, okay, fine, even if you don't have passes in these 2 subjects, at least English, because English is the medium of communication in the Ghana Police Service. Not many of them met the requirements. So with the new people we are recruiting, we are conscious of these requirements, such that when they want to exit them into the mainstream policing, they wouldn't have difficulty. And one good thing about this is that it helps reduce this cost of training, because the young people are given equally the same training as police officers.
So will the pass marks be taken into consideration
Yes,
or not?
yes. At least even English is to be taken into consideration, so that those we move into the program, when the Ghana Police Service is exiting them into the mainstream policing, there wouldn't be such insilbex. You should have passes. At least they would have had the passes already, and that will make it very easy.
Now you have said that, or from my understanding of what you just told me, it looks like you're looking at a regional picture. Is that the case?
We're looking at
with the skills training in the various regions that we do have in this country.
Yeah, what we do is that we do most of these models in partnership with private individuals. You can submit a proposal. You want to teach people how to produce shoes, leather shoes. Now what we do is that we look at the proposal, which would certainly contain a budget. We look at cost of training each individual. Then we know the total number of young people you are training. We pay for the cost. So the young person is not going to pay for anything. He or she is just coming to be trained. Now it is important that you don't just give someone training and allow the person to go. There are many young ladies out there who learned hairdressing and seamstressing, but they don't have money to start their own. So the skill and the training that they've had would have been useless. So our focus is that after the training, you set up the person. But the money to set up the young person after the training is a loan.
And early on, I was asking you that isn't this like a replica of Let's Deck or
YesDeck? Yeah, virtually. You know, YesDeck is even under NYEP. It's more or less a replica. But one good thing about this is that
what's different? Because we don't have multiple.
With LessDeck, the person has the training already. They provide the person with the tools to start and be paying. But with NYEP, you don't have the training. We give you the training, and after that, we set you up. That is the difference. But with YesDeck and LessDeck, you can have a barber, someone who learned this barbering. You give the person the tools, the person will be working and be paying. But with NYEP, we will give you the training through the private or the service provider. Now, if you look at what is used to set up the person will start and be paying it to the service provider, which is a loan, without any interest. We make it so flexible that such a person, if it is, let's say, 1,000 cedis, cost of the tools that he or she would start, he'll be paying it bit by bit within 2 years.
Now, we're running out of time, but quickly before I let you go, during the NYEP era, we did see or hear a lot of issues that you have even touched on with regards to payments of monies to volunteers who were engaged in
beneficiaries.
In the training programs, and it was a major issue in this country.
I guess we don't.
On several platforms, you did give answers with relations to the payments to beneficiaries. And it might have even discouraged some of these persons from even getting onto the programs that you were running. Now you have 31 modules. What would you say, or how different would this be? And what will make, or what will encourage someone out there who wants to get into the program and say, oh, we've seen these things several times. How different is this going to be?
I think the difference is that you don't hear the stories recurring again.
But maybe they're quiet on it.
No.
How different is this one?
Why would they be quiet?
Quickly before we
let you go. Why would they be quiet if they are not paid? The fact is that we have moved from the paid jobs to skill training, and we now have money. If you look at the previous administration, 60% of the communication service tax is now given to NYEP. World Bank has given us about $65 million grant, and that is why I tell critics, those who think that the NYEP is not doing well, NYEP was adjudged the best youth employment program globally by the BBC. The focus is giving capacity training, setting them up so that they don't go to bank to take money. They start something on their own, and that is the difference. Unlike
while they are being paid.
No, they are not paid. What you do is that if you train someone and you give the person the tools or the money to start, you don't pay such a person. The person will also be able to employ, at least even if he can employ other people, 2 of his siblings.
So it means with this, they are not taking allowances?
They are not taking allowances. They are giving training, and they are giving them money to start something on their own.
All right.
So it's not like
we'll still get back to this very issue to elaborate more on it. But I just spoke to the Deputy National Coordinator of the Ghana Youth Employment Development Agency, Mutala Mohammed, on the role of the new development agency and what they will be looking at. We didn't have enough time to talk about it, but when we do, we'll look at more into that very issue. Sources of energy for cooking in Ghana has seen some changes over the years, from the use of firewood to charcoal, kerosene, gas and electric stoves and ovens. In spite of the effect of charcoal burning on the environment, trade persists, and Kenneth Osayampofo finds out why people continue to engage in the business, especially in northern Ghana.
Charcoal burning in the northern region is a thriving business. All one needs are wood and a sandy ground for the creation of mounds to facilitate the burning process, which takes an average of 3 days. On a hot Sunday afternoon, Ayuba Al-Hassan in his 40s engages in his charcoal business, cutting charcoal from mounds on his charcoal burning site to the roadside close to the Damango Boli stretch of road in the northern region. He has been engaged in this business with his family for about 3 years. He fells trees either by himself or gather tree trunks falling by themselves. He arranges them in a manner suitable for the process and covers them with sand. This way, the mounds look like traditional ovens. He says the business of burning charcoal is tedious. The question we ask is why he engages in this tasking business. He explains whether or not the business is lucrative. But would he want to remain in the business of charcoal burning as a means of survival? The question begging for answers is how do we as a nation prevent the degradation of the environment and at the same time provide opportunities for people to make a living using available natural resources.
All right, still in charcoal business, but away from that, the General Overseer of the Royal House Chapel International, Reverend Sam Kwanchi-Ankra, wants the President-elect John Dramani Mahama to adopt an all-inclusive government for his four-term tenure. Interacting with journalists at the church's end-of-year reception, he noted all-inclusive governance structure fosters unity.
The annual end-of-year party is organized to celebrate the birth of Christ and to share with the needy in society. Kaye and other less privileged children were fed and presented with clothes. They were treated to good music and admonished to eschew immoral activities. Interacting with journalists after the event, the General Overseer of the Church, Reverend Sam Kwanchi-Ankra, congratulated the President-elect but urged him to adopt an all-inclusive government that will foster unity.
I have often said that I dislike the winner-takes-all syndrome, the winner-takes-all spirit. And I pray that as a father of the nation, he will present to us a government of national unity, where all players who matter, who have something to offer for the development of this nation, will be brought on board.
He asked aggrieved persons to resort to laid-down procedures in seeking redress.
We are asking that all political parties must resort to the constitutional arrangements in our democratic dispensation, which means that any group that is not happy is obliged to go to the courts to seek redress.
Council Education, Pathfinders Educational Trust, in non-Christian governmental organization, has launched 16 career education books to aid career choices. A former lecturer in the Department of Publishing Studies at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, the Right Reverend Dr. Edem Tete, authored the books.
The Pathfinder Education Trust says the publication covers several career areas and is expected to ratify issues of unemployment in the country. The General Secretary of the Pentecost Church, Apostle Alfred Kodua, urged stakeholders to support efforts at eradicating the difficulty in career choices. A former lecturer in publishing studies, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and author, the Right Reverend Dr. Edem Tete, said the publication was also designed to be a tool for counselors in institutions engaged in guidance.
Guidance counselors are being trained for the secondary schools on a regular basis. Their work have been largely perceived as dealing with truancy in schools. They need tools in form of books on careers and programs of study to teach the students in a course on career education.
The former General Director of the Scripture Union Ghana, Jude Hammer, says the publication is timely.
Research done on over 310 career options that students could be looking at. I mean, it is a marvelous achievement, and it has come to meet a unique need. It will find its own niche in career guidance for students.
The publication covers several areas including agriculture and arts.
More on education, Nollywood actor Emeka Ike, who doubles as CEO of My Academy West Africa, has stressed the need for production of quality movies to raise the standard of the movie industry in Africa. He was speaking at a graduation ceremony of 38 Nigerian students admitted to NAFTI for a 6-month program.
The 38 students from My Academy West Africa undertook courses in digital film production at the National Film and Television Institute, NAFTI. The Chief Executive Officer of My Academy West Africa, Emeka Ike, explained the need for the training in Ghana.
We are one people that politics had driven apart. So the affinity, the naturality exists between us. So that's why anywhere you see a Nigerian and a Ghanaian, they're always like brothers. I think that's why Ghana came first.
He added this is a step towards rewriting the history of the movie industry in the West African sub-region. The rector of NAFTI, Professor Linus Abraham, also urged the students to pursue further professional studies. He hinted NAFTI will become Media Arts University to grow the industry, offer masters in filmmaking, and offer courses in broadcast journalism by 2013.
Well, Christians have been advised to let the principles of Christianity reflect in their deeds. The Right Reverend Joseph Imprim gave the advice at the Mount Sinai Methodist Church in Kumasi. Also urged followers of God to love peace and also uphold unity. Right Reverend Joseph Imprim spoke at the Mount Sinai Methodist Church's 50th anniversary celebration. He said Christians endeavor to let the light of God reflect in their deeds. He said and added that the true Christian is one who loves peace and also ensures unity. Some not too pleasant news here in the Shanti region. Several passengers were injured in an accident involving a 207 Benz bus and a Nissan pickup on the Asokwa Ainton Road in Kumasi. The 207 bus with registration number AS1370Q, which was carrying 27 persons, was traveling from Kumasi to Kuntanase when it crashed in a Nissan pickup with registration number GC39267Z. The 207 Benz bus, according to eyewitnesses, was speeding and could not stop when the traffic light flashed red. It crashed into a Nissan pickup which had 2 persons, including the driver on board. The driver of the 207 bus, together with some passengers, sustained injuries and were sent to the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital for treatments. In another accident, an unregistered Toyota Corolla was also crashed into a VW Golf 2 with registration number GN7800N. Away from that, we go for your views on what do you think? As 2012 comes to an end, today on What Do You Think, we're asking you, what are your fondest memories of the year 2012? What do you think?
2012, what will actually excite me is the peaceful elections that we had, with Ghanaians once again proving to be more democratic in terms of then leading the way. That is gateway to Africa, because if you look at the sub-region, Ghanaians are proving to be rich in terms of democracy.
And in your personal life?
With my personal life, yeah, I had a successful year. My job was better, my Christian life was better, and entirely had a good health. And I think I'm grateful to God for that.
My daughter has been praying hard for a husband, and God willing, it came to pass. God gave her a husband who has wedded her. They've given birth, and it is a fine thing God has done for me, and I'm very grateful to God for it.
I'm very happy about how the election was free and fair, and there is nothing bad that happened into the election. I was very happy about that.
What I'll forever remember about 2012 is that I got married, I gave birth to a bouncing baby boy, and I'm grateful for God seeing me through the year successfully as well.
By God's grace, I've completed my education. That's my happiest moment.